Ladies and gentlemen, if you are listening to this right now, asking yourself, what do the questions of the universe hold, then we must sadly tell you, we got nothing.
Greetings and salutations, my psychedelic children, my beautiful souls, and welcome once again to this expose into the art of conversation. We got nothing. I am your host, Catalyst Jost, coming at you once again from the beautiful sunshine wasteland of Central Florida. I am here with the only other guest other than Saturn that has managed to make it on all 4 seasons of this podcast. Please help me welcome my good friend, Ed Broker.
Well, shit, man, I didn't know I'm one of the few that's been on every season. That's the honor.
Yeah, no, it's only been you and Saturn.
Oh, true.
You were telling me a funny story. Well, not ha-ha funny, more like funny as long as it wasn't happening to you, you being me, about your car situation.
Oh, yeah, dude, I was in, this happened 2 days ago. Yeah, 2 days ago. I got in my first real actual car accident. Like, well, I've, ditched a car in the winter, I had a parked car before, that type of shit, but this is an actual accident on the road. Thankfully I walked away okay. The other guy walked away okay. All was well with that. But I just had turned onto a road and there was 2 lanes. I was in the left lane, traveling north, and this dude's pulling out of a liquor store, and he's about to hit me. I slammed the brakes, slammed the horn, still just boom, fucking flips my car, and then we dealt with the cops and everything. Obliterated the whole right side of my car. Didn't hit the wheel well, didn't hit anything mechanical or electrical. All the doors still open.
Yeah, no.
It's dinged the shit for sure.
Yeah, no, and he really fucked up your face pretty bad too.
Well, it's just been like that. If anything, it would be like that episode of SpongeBob where Squidward gets his face hit and he's all beautiful.
You're right. Speaking of home, beyond all that bullshit, how's the town been?
North Country, upstate New York, it's I don't know, it's things are nice up here in the summer, you know. One of the appeals about this area is the nature stuff, and then you're near, a lot of other vibrant places like Burlington, Platt, that type of stuff. But as far as, Plattsburgh and the North Country itself, there's just still not a lot going on. The area's pretty economically depressed. We got factories closing left and right, and still just a lot of people doing drugs, man. Drugs are so fucking heavy up here. So
I know. I mean, it's one thing if you want to drop acid or take some mushrooms and go into the woods and just trip out for a little bit. But people take it to the backwoods extreme of things with the meth and in a lot of pills. You see a lot of pills really go on there. It's ironic that the medical system in that sector of the country is so fucked, yet the pharmaceuticals are selling like hotcakes.
Yeah, I think, I've worked in the mental health field a little bit, and I think that's another, major issue up here is just a real lack of social services all around and a lack of mental health services. And there's a lot of controversy up here too. So they brought a lot of the immigrants from down south up here, and the DSS, I guess, is giving a lot of those people housing and money, food stamps, all that. And then there's people that are born and raised in this town that are just fucking struggling, and they're unable to get housing and food stamps and stuff like that, or they're waiting a long time. And, I'm not saying we shouldn't help other people, but at the same time, I can see where a lot of people have a problem with, helping all these other people when, we're struggling our asses off too. So I get both sides of the argument, but there is some kind of controversy around that whole thing right now.
Exactly, and the thing is, yes, especially the way I was raised, you don't want to see anybody suffer. I mean, what is it? I forget what philosopher said this, but like life is suffering, and I'm probably like butchering that paraphrasing and whatnot. And again, based off of how I was raised as a kid, I don't enjoy seeing anyone suffer unwillingly and without just cause. That being said, at what point does virtue signaling for the sake to help people versus virtue signaling to just not look like an asshole to a certain demographic or ideology, like where does that begin and end? And unfortunately, especially when it comes to the latter, it really affects the local population of a very small and, as you've said, depressed area, to the point where you see a lot more vitriol to the people that are receiving these services that may or may not have lived, that are not native born citizens here. And that's a can of worms that's also bad, because then you get the classic, like, the classic South Park line, they took our jobs, and it's like, unfortunately, where does the answer lie? I mean, I actually kind of know the answer to that, but it's kind of fucked to say it.
Yeah, I think right now, like, I'm not saying, we should build a wall or close borders or anything like that. But I also don't think that you can just willy-nilly open the borders like they have right now. Immigration problem aside, even from a national security standpoint, the amount of Chinese and Russian nationals that are, getting into the country via the southern border with the conditions they have right now is insane. Not only that, but, and I'm not implying that, all immigrants are criminals or anything like that by any means. That's not what I'm saying. That many people letting them in, there's no chance in hell that some of them aren't criminals, some of them aren't rapists, this, that, the other thing. So I just don't think that they're really properly tracking any of this, and they're also, you can't just let anybody and everybody in. You gotta do your due diligence, and I don't think that that's really happening right now.
We'll take that out of the equation for a couple seconds. So my boss here at my job, he was originally born in Puerto Rico and whatnot, and he emigrated over here into Central Florida here. It also doesn't just take away from the native-born citizens of the U.S. in an economy that more and more each day it looks like Mount Vesuvius about to blow. It also takes away from those citizens that legally emigrated here from different sectors of the world, like the Caribbean and Europe and all that stuff, and who had earned their way into the culture and the benefits of living in our society and our nation. And that really fucks them over, because the whole idea of America the free, home of the brave and whatnot, like, it shows the man behind the curtain. And that's a very depressing outlook.
Yeah, and I think that, like, to build on what you were saying, I think that their mishandling of this issue and of resources and of different things, it really has given immigrants just a bad rap. Like, there's always been, racist people and, people that hate immigrants, this and that. You're never gonna not, that's always gonna be a thing at some level. You're not gonna entirely abolish that. But as far as in my lifetime, this is probably the most outright hatred I've ever seen towards immigrants as a whole. And you gotta remember, America was founded on immigration. Hell, like, it was the Native Americans here, like, our ancestors came over from Europe and everything, like, America is, you know, founded on immigration, you know, and it's definitely a weird time, I guess.
It is, to say the least. You know, more and more I see how the socioeconomic status continues to crack and chip and whatnot. I had a very disturbing thought the other day. Now, you constantly hear a lot of extremists from both sides of the spectrum say that the only real way to get back um, get back to a stabilization is an economic reset. Now, whether you agree with it or not, and I'm not going to go into the mechanics of it because that's not my field of study. When I hear that, I hear anarchy. Now, here's what I mean by that. Here's what I mean by that. If, say, tomorrow there is a peaceful, economic peaceful, I say in quotations, like an economic reset where the dollar just it never existed, its value, poof, it's gone, and it's gone. And we start doing something like a globally, what's the word for it? A currency that applies to every single nation and major foreign body in the globe. There is going to be, similar to how COVID was and the chaos that that brought, there's going to be anarchy in the streets over the current dollar values, or the kind of currency we have no longer holding any real world value. You're going to see looting, you're going to see rioting, you're going to see, if I was like in the 8-figure or even 7-figure income, I would not want to step out of the streets, because eat the rich is a real thing in the zeitgeist. And that is offering an absolutely bleak scenario, almost no different than what you would see in, say, something like Children of Man, but only instead of sperm and eggs, it's money.
Yeah, I think that would definitely cause a lot of societal chaos. Also, like, the thing is we're such a globalized society now that countries and their currencies, especially America too, we're very involved in a lot of different, endeavors across the globe. Um, to do some sort of economic reset wouldn't just happen within a country. Something like that would be almost probably like a globalized Great Depression. Yeah, I don't know. As far as like the reset that I think is coming is more along the lines of like a big global conflict.
You mean
I think we're honestly ramping up towards like World War III in the Middle East. Um, I could definitely see that being a thing in our lifetimes.
Yeah, yeah, no. A lot of people share that sentiment, and it's clear as day that no citizen, whatever side of the spectrum you fall on under ideologies, wants that. At least in our country, because one, our tax dollars going to the proverbial meat grinder for foreign bodies that we need for things like mental health, public transportation, making sure that the small areas of our nation, the ones outside of key metropolitan demographics, are actually taken care of, because that's where we get a lot of industry-based goods and trades from. And yet we stockpile them to foreign countries to help in their aid against even bigger superpowers that have fuck all to do with some of the major problems we face in the nation. And we voice these opinions nonstop, and our lend me your ears, our cries fall on deaf ears. And that creates a supreme vitriol and hatred that can result in absolute, not just societal collapse, but an unrest with the current governing regime and the people who support it. And that's very scary.
Yeah, I think so. America's, supposed to be a democracy, and we're essentially supposed to elect our officials, and they're supposed to, do things, as we would like them to do. Otherwise, we don't re-elect them. The thing is that really kind of became corrupt along the way, in that one, not anybody can run. You need a bunch of money and this and that, which that comes from companies and big military, big pharma, big tobacco, a lot of those industries. So it's more of an aristocracy nowadays, I think, than anything, in which these rich big companies are very much, the government is doing their bidding and not the bidding of people. And the government's supposed to be for the people, by the people, and I think we've very much lost sight of that, and it's real unfortunate,
It's not just that. They also tend to, put on agendas and advertisements through our various media outlets to separate us as the people. Because you see a lot nowadays of, since we're on the topic of a little bit of economics and a little bit of social zeitgeist, let's say one's economic status. Like, being poor is like how it was with Jim Crow laws and the end to abolish slavery back then. And here's what I mean. Are you going to hang out with the dude who makes 5 figures a year, lives in a tiny apartment, and but he's actually a decent person? Usually 9 times out of 10, people view economic status as similar to health. Like, it's almost like if you're poor, you have like a genetic disease. And that has wormed its way into society through these kind of advertisements that you see on the regular. And I don't know about you, but me personally, I want to be able to make sure that my bills are not a stressor. That part of my life as an adult is not a big contributing factor. That way, I can also have the freedom to carry on with various with various projects I would have, like say in art, or try to make sure that if one day, when my family needs financial support, both my immediate and its and their various branches there, I want to make sure that I could contribute and help support them in some way. I don't need fucking 7 figures for that. Well, maybe I will if inflation goes up, but yeah, that's overall what I want. I don't need fucking fancy yachts with 1,000 models trying to claw at me. I don't need to go to the most lavish concerts in the world. I don't need to be on the red carpet. It was once a dream of mine, but seeing how fame and that high economic status equates to the ego, and also just your inability to relate to your fellow man, I don't know about you, it's a no from me, dog,
Yeah, I was actually talking with one of my friends just one of my online friends that I play PlayStation with the other day, and I think with a lot of rich and famous people, I think even down to like their day-to-day like operations, kind of how they present themselves, there's a lot of showmanship involved, and there's a lot of like fakeness, and I feel like to live like that day in day out would be really exhausting.
Yeah, no, it kind of went with one of the themes with the original, with the Game of Thrones novel, because if you read the first novel, one of the biggest thing Ned Stark points out is because the North is is a very like it's a very rural area of Westeros and the cold and whatnot, but like you have things like honor and your fellow neighbor, your family, duty, like old school values like that. While people in the South, like in King's Landing, in the big major city, they're constantly competing each other for clout, favor with the royal family, for the constant, endless stream of money, without appreciating what they have, and also not even giving two flying fucks who they have to step over in order to gain that next placement. And I think you really see that. I'm not going to even just say it in major metropolitan cities. I think like social media like has really broke down the door for that kind of behavior and that kind of mentality.
Yeah, I think social media in a lot of ways is kind of eroded and very much chipped at small town mentality. Um, which in some ways is good, in some ways is bad. It's not black and white. It's there's a lot of good that's come from social media, but there's also a lot of bad. I think it's good in some sense that we can see footage of like war in Ukraine and see what that's all about and get real journalism and stuff. But it's also really, really bad for young people to just see people stealing shit from stores, boom gang and fucking people on all their yachts and shit, And also there's a very, very large issues with young women being all these supermodels, OnlyFans, porn stars, this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of people that I've known over the years that are at the age of like 18, 19, 20 years old that are putting out videos on OnlyFans and shit is fucking absurd. And I'm not saying, you can do what you want to fucking do by all means, but I don't think that people realize the repercussions of putting yourself out there like that. Like, you can't do that and then go be a teacher, you know what I mean? Or like, if you have kids, your kids are gonna, stumble across that. It's like, is that something you really want?
I was gonna say like especially when it comes to a family dynamic, there that shit can really get dicey further down the road. On the other hand, you look at the way the economy is now and what it has the potential to be in the future, and I don't mean that in a positive light. Can you really blame some of these people for, because like that is a majorly booming industry? And what is it, I've had an OnlyFans model on here on the cast before, and I fucking get it. How are you gonna justify like the fact that the blue collar man or hell a firefighter makes what, like 49 52,000 a year, and this fireman is putting his life on the line voluntarily in order to make sure that that a like nobody's getting killed, b that whatever structure is mainly intact due to whatever purposes the town or city needs it to. And oh my god, it's just such a thankless job, especially when it comes to the fact that their salary is 52,000. I'm pretty sure like you can make like a little bit more as a teacher, not by much, but you can fucking make more as a teacher for than that, and that's just depressing. And maybe I'm getting my factoids wrong here because of like growing prices, growing inflation, and whatnot, growing wages, but that is just piss poor to me. And the fact that the OnlyFans girl can make, oh, God, like, could probably make triple, what is it? Not triple, like six figures by the end of the year. Maybe if they're popular enough, maybe even halfway through that, or if they have a good marketing strategy or team. How make that make sense to me?
Right, and that's where a lot of people, want this type of economic reset. And I don't even know, like, I think it's just us as a society are incentivizing the wrong things. Like, one, like, doctors shouldn't be so over encumbered with debt. Like, you don't want somebody operating on your loved one thinking about, fuck, how am I going to make this debt payment? So shit like that. And then there's also, like, yeah, teachers are the ones that are supposed to teach your kids and all that. And it's like we're paying them, what, 30, 40, maybe 50K a year. Even same with, like, a lot of, like, social workers and firefighters, police. Like, a lot of these people aren't making, a lot of money. And it's like, one, especially cops and stuff, if you're not properly paying cops, of course you're going to get corruption. They're not being properly paid, and the drug dealer comes around and says, I'll give you 20 grand to turn the other cheek. If this cop's well paid and can take care of his family, he says, nah, get bent, I'm throwing you in fucking cuffs. Now, if he's barely making enough to get by, he's got, his wife's got a surgery coming up or something, and he's just fucked, like, yeah, maybe he takes that money a lot easier. So I think societally we just, for whatever reason, have incentivized a lot of the wrong things. Like, we're incentivizing shitty people doing shitty things on the internet. We're incentivizing porn. We're incentivizing fast food. And all these things, we're incentivizing, big pharma.
Don't
And
don't
it's
forget.
like, why?
Don't forget, we're also incentivizing assassination.
Yeah, that whole thing was fucking nutty, man.
Yeah,
I really don't know what to make of that whole thing. What are your thoughts on the Trump assassination?
Well, assassination attempt. Let's be clear
Oh,
about
yeah,
that.
that's better. Okay.
Well, I was in the middle of 24-hour fitness, just getting my pump on and whatnot, and all of a sudden I'm looking on the screen like there's a bunch of like guards dogpiling someone on a stage. I didn't even read the caption, and all of a sudden like Trump comes up with his ear bleeding and he's holding his fist up, and I'm like, wait, what the fuck? So after I got done the workout and I looked it up, and I'm like, oh wow, yeah, this shit just kicked it into fifth gear. Like this, oh my god. What I will say is, regardless of people's opinions on these candidates, and trust me, I have plenty of opinions of my own regarding both sides of the equation, especially with the fact that out of 300 fucking million people in this country and growing, you're telling me that these two old dudes are the best choices we could have came up with? Now, besides that, no one should lose their life over a presidential campaign. No one should. No matter how vulgar, no matter how much of a twat or how little they genuinely care about say their, what's the word, subordinates, whatever we would be considered. No one should lose their life over it. I don't advocate for bringing death upon people over something trivial as a presidential campaign. And with that being said, who's going to tell Trump that it's gay to have the right ear pierced?
So I think there was a lot of a lot of just crazy aspects to that whole thing. I'll say, for one, the fact that Secret Service let him get up and put his fist in the air like that is insane. One, it's insane that Trump's like reaction is to do that. Like, what a G fucking move. But also, like, Lord knows if there's a second, third, fourth fucking shooter. You know what I mean? Like that. That seemed like a real bad security handling of that. Secondly, there's a lot of. It's very hard to tell what really happened because media is, very corrupt. Various medias are left leaning, various other ones are right leaning. But there's a lot of things. One is like you look at the crowd. There's shots going off, and the crowd's not really like freaking the fuck out. Like, I don't know, if there's gunshots going off near you like that, you're ducking for cover, you're fucking everything. Like, so that seemed really odd. The sound seemed kind of off on the gunshots as well. Watching the video, and then just the fact that this guy was able to walk up to that roof in a building that there was cops in, and he was able to walk up with a ladder and a gun is also fucking really suspicious.
Did you see the video? Did you see the video where there were a bunch of people like actually recording him on top of the building the structure he was on? Like they clearly showed that he had a ladder and was carrying something there with him, and they were all pointing. I could hear in the background people saying "officer, officer" and all that shit, and like you can clearly see this kid on the roof. So where did shit get fucked up? Or yeah, I see what you're saying is like it's hard not to get like wear the tinfoil hat when it comes to this situation because every angle you look at it, it's supremely fucked. And especially if if I were to look at it like from the crazy conspiracist point of view, if there was a clear agenda, and the agenda being to have Trump in office, this would be it. Because I even discussed it with you earlier. Honest to God, like this just supports more people to his cause. It like that image of him doing like John Bender from the Breakfast Club, like having that fist in the air, saying "fight, fight, fight." Yeah, you were right. That shit was as interesting of an image that was. Any real like national security official would have been like, okay, Mr. President, sit the fuck down, or I'm gonna beat you up because you can get yourself fucking killed. So there's that, and there was this. There was something funny I saw in one of the comment sections about this. Is like, if you believe that our vote matters when it comes to a presidential election, then you probably believe pro wrestling is real. And I'm like, yeah, I was like, why would you say something so controversial yet so brave? Like that quote has stuck with me for a bit.
I saw a meme back in the day when it was Trump versus Hillary, and it was like, voting for Hillary because she's a woman is like drinking antifreeze because it looks like blue Gatorade.
That one was delayed for me.
Like, maybe somebody that doesn't delete a million fucking emails, that
Oh my. You're gonna kill me. Wow. Yeah, no.
I was listening to Flagrant, which is a podcast with Mark Gagnon, Andrew Sills, and Akash Singh. And Akash Singh was saying, he said something I thought was really interesting, and this kind of, he's right on the nose with this, is this whole Trump assassination attempt, because of the amount of information and because of the twisting of information by either side. It very much, this whole ordeal is something that you can kind of echo chamber and get, any type of information. And it lends itself to every side, because some people are saying Trump faked it as like a stunt to gain more fame. Some people are saying, it was just this random guy that said fuck Donald Trump and tried to shoot him. And some people are saying, this guy was a straight patsy and the Democrats tried to take him out. Some people are saying it was a foreign adversary that was trying to take him out. And I don't think we'll ever concrete 100% get the truth. I really don't.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you what the fuck happened or where I even stand on all of that. I think in this crazy ass time and the craziness that is politics at that level, I think any of those scenarios are possible,
Yeah, no, and the divide with between political ideologies has just like kind of gotten ripped open, and that's very reflective in the media we consume. I mean, like back in April, they released the movie Civil War, which I have yet to see there, and they also re-released it like a couple months later for theaters. And look no further in more recent moments like season 4 of The Boys on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, they have a way of really in your face kind of like in like a satirical manner almost making fun of current events and whatnot, and it's definitely an interesting take.
Honestly, I think season 4 kind of threw away with the nuance of satire and really went in a lot of ways to full on parody uh, in a lot of its thematic presentation,
Yeah, I think they definitely touch on like the woke politics and all that. And then they definitely kind of show a lot of like the conservative ideology when the one lady firecracker there is just roasting the shit out of Starlight for getting an abortion. That's definitely been a hot topic issue lately. And then
I mean,
Vought is very much, in a way, symbolizes kind of mainstream media, I think.
not just mainstream media, but big corpo as a whole, because Homelander is the biggest representation of big corpo's streamlined products. So the fact that he is gonna be like pretty much the superhero version of the president, and I'm not gonna say much because there are some parts where they diverge away from the comics and whatnot. I all I'm gonna say is like especially after this year, there's gonna be plenty of fuel for the final season there, and as much as I love consuming those kinds of media, like I'm kind of getting sick of like politics in the mainstream in general, and I say this as we're in a fucking election year, but yeah.
Yeah, politics has just very much gotten out of hand, and I think a lot of it plays on kind of like our primordial genetic, makeup, in that we're very much designed to be tribal creatures in the sense that, like, it was a survival mechanism. If you're not part of the tribe, if you do something to get kicked out of the tribe, like, you're on your own, you're fucked. You're not gonna, have love, you're not gonna have companionship, you're not gonna have someone watching your back while you're hunting an animal. So, but I think, like, you extrapolate to modern times, and we still have that in our DNA, and I think it very much this whole political schema kind of lends itself to that genetic makeup that we have, and people have just become very, very tribal about politics, and I don't know, like, you didn't really see this, like, 20, 30 years ago. You know, people had their political beliefs and stuff, but, like, your neighbor was a Democrat and you were a Republican, and y'all were still, like, neighborly and shit, you know? Nowadays, it's, oh, like, you're a Republican? What do you hate immigrants? What do you fucking think that kids should grow up in foster care? You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much judgment attached with either side, and I hate that so much. You know, I myself, I'm very apolitical, you know? People ask me, what are you? And I'll say, oh, like, I don't really identify with anything. Like, just ask me how I feel about a particular thing, and I'll tell you. And they'll pick abortion, gun rights, drugs, border, whatever it is, and I'll tell them, you know, my detailed, you know, philosophy on whatever it is. And then they're like, oh, so you're this or that. And it's like, no, I just told you how I feel about a particular issue, you know?
Going back to the topic of like how politics have like seeped into like the media we consume, before I go on this next one, what did you think of what did you think of The Boys overall, like political themes and whatnot, notwithstanding?
So I think season 4, I mean, The Boys is always pretty action-packed, and season 4 wasn't lackluster in terms of action, I wouldn't say that, but in comparison to other seasons, it definitely was much slower. But I think the character development was really good. It seemed like every character was kind of, you had Huey with his dad, you had Starlight coming off with the whole abortion thing. Butcher's obviously dealing with his mental health shit and sickness.
Oh yeah, I probably should have said spoiler. I'm just now realizing I should have put on spoilers for this one.
Yeah, that's facts.
Spoilers for major media, including this and House of the Dragon going forward. Should say that right now.
So I think every character kind of dealing with their own shit was an interesting way to kind of set up the final season.
Yeah, no.
Season 5 is gonna be full blown action packed through and through.
Yeah, no, nothing's gonna get held back, and there were a lot of things like the death of Hugh Senior that really cemented a lot of baggage going into the next season, and also you also see the evolution of certain characters, like with the Deep finally embracing the fact that he can, like, that he is a douchebag, and that he, well, kind of also deluding himself for what he did with Starlight in season 1, where that line when they invaded the boys' headquarters, and he tells her, like, I don't believe in your truth, like when he got me too'd about what happened and whatnot. Like, that is very reflective on the modern day, but like also on a less tongue-in-cheek on modern day zeitgeist take. I loved A-Train's arc. Like, this guy is probably the best character right now, because he goes from the most hated character, the junkie, who doesn't take accountability, and now he's actively helping the people who were once his enemies. Like, that's pristine character development.
Yeah, he had a really good character arc, and I think too, like, we were talking about virtue signaling and whatnot earlier, and I think they do a good job of representing that too, because all their saves and shit are all fucking staged, and when he brings MM to the hospital, and that kid sees him, that's like a defining moment for him. And that's real, man. Like, people are out here, like, doing good shit and recording it just to, like, gain fame and clout and, you know, virtue signal, like, I'm a good person. And it's like, I feel like you're just, like, subtracting from the good that you're doing through recording shit like that, you know? Like, you should do good just for the sake of doing good because it's the right thing to fucking do. You shouldn't need to whip out a fucking camera. You shouldn't need to do all this other shit. Like, you know, just do the good thing and go about your day, you know?
Yeah, there's no soul in it. And, like, there's this thought process that, like, that's all you can do. It's like, no, that's not true. Like, if you put down the phone for 2 seconds, you crowdsource what could be an idea, then you can get more of a ball rolling when an emergency situation happens. Although you do run into the danger of the bystander effect taking place.
Yeah, the bystander effect's a real thing for sure. And I even noticed that too, and I won't don't name the facility or anything I worked at, but when I was in the mental health field, it was like a live-in situation. We would have like clients like living in the house and whatnot. And even that, like I noticed like a real diffusion of responsibility. So we were opening up a second location and we had hired extra staff to get people trained for the secondary location.
Mm-hmm.
And we went from having, you know, 3, 4 people on to 8 people a night, which was way more staff than needed. And I would notice, like, you know, when we had, you know, a couple of people, we were all fucking on it. Like, the second something needed to be done or a client needed attending to, we were there doing it. But when there was 8 people, it seemed like everybody was like, oh, so-and-so will go deal with that. Or we'd get caught up talking amongst ourselves and shit. And I just noticed that, like, I really, like, witnessed, you know, the bystander effect there kind of firsthand. And that does happen in a lot of situations.
Yeah, you also you see art taking taking on life, or life imitating art. Like before, you were talking about different themes, like such as people's view of abortion, but also the idea of like women being in more like in a more prominent role, like authoritative wise, and holding more prominence than what traditional values had originally intended. You see that a lot with House of the Dragon there this season.
Yeah, House of the Dragons has been pretty good. I almost didn't watch it. The first season, man, all the time jumps fucking pissed
Oh,
me
yeah,
off.
yeah. No, you definitely
The main
would not have watched it if
actor.
I hadn't come over.
Yeah. So, but like, once I got through that, like, I actually really do like the show a lot. I think the setup is pretty interesting with
Yeah.
Rhaenyra fighting for the throne and everything.
Yeah, no, and you're kind of seeing like it go back to the original Game of Thrones format, where the big intrigue comes from kind of similar to the topic of today, like the politics of what it takes to rule the people, and also one of the main themes being like should not even should like what would it be like if a woman was in charge of a major governing body, and can the people accept it after years of tradition being the polar opposite? You see the dynamic with, say, Alicent. She has prime experience when it comes to like viewing how the king rules, because she was by Viserys' side for a good portion of that time skip, and she knows what it's like to be strategic because she's Otto's daughter there, Otto Hightower. But even though she is the queen, like regent or former queen or whatever, just because she's a woman, like you see a lot of dynamics where she is just like absolutely, she's not listened to. And a little bit of a spoiler with this past episode, she's outright kicked out of the council because, well, they Eamon himself pretty much said, "Yeah, we this just turned into the boys' club. Can you fuck off?" Pretty much.
Yeah, he even didn't make her friend there the hand either. He said, "I want Otto Hightower's hand again." I thought that was interesting.
Oh yeah, they didn't make Laris the hand, which probably would have been much more smart because, like, as Master of Whisperers, you're kind of like the general, like, on the sidelines of how it affects the subjects and also how it affects the entire continent. And that's why I found the mirroring dynamic with, say, Rhaenyra and God, I forget her fucking name. The worm there, the white worm, the woman. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I don't. How do I forget her fucking name? But with Rhaenyra's dynamic, it's very much similar. I mean, she's, you know, the kind of their Aegon or Aemond on the black side, but you even have her fucking high council discrediting her, questioning her every move because she's a fucking woman. And even Rhaenyra said this earlier in the season. She wished she could have been born a man. That way she could have had a sword in hand as a kid instead of her father's chalice to pour into, which really displays the gender dynamics and some of the things that go into ruling a nation, especially from the symbolic aspect of it. Granted, this is a medieval setting, but this also kind of applies a little bit to today. Am I wrong?
So I really like in this last episode, when Damon is talking to that like witch lady.
Yeah, Alice there, Alice Rivers.
And she's like, she was talking about how Viserys was like a good king and did his best, and he originally didn't want to be king. And how she talks about how, like, the throne isn't a prize to be won, but a burden to be bared. And that's even, Plato even says that in his book, Plato's Republic, or Republic of Plato, I forget the title. But he talks about how, like, the best king would be someone that doesn't actively want to be king. And I think that the same should be true of modern day politics. You know, like, I feel like the presidential election shouldn't necessarily be a prize to be won, but a burden to bear. You know, like, and it should also be more meritocracy in the sense that, like, you know what I mean? Like you wouldn't want, like, some random ass, like Joe Biden, let's say. Like, you wouldn't want somebody with that level of dementia to be the CEO of your company. Shareholders would immediately say, nah, we gotta get somebody else in here. So how is it that he's allowed to run the biggest country in the world, the most economically prosperous country in the world, the country with the biggest, most advanced military? How are you gonna let somebody like that run this shit? Like, that's absurd to me. Like, it should be somebody that's, you know, proven themselves capable of such a feat, and that's just not what's happening. It's essentially people, you know, profiteering for this fucking, this throne, essentially, that is, you know, the presidency, and that's not what it should be. Like, it should be somebody that's willing to take on that stress and do their best, and, you know.
And even if you go with Trump, who they say passed a cognizance test with flying colors, he is what, like 80 fucking 2? Biden, like, started showing some real signs of mental fatigue like a year and some change into his term. And even before that, there was some signs here and there. But it, especially with how stressful a time this is, like, Trump has been, like, he's been, he's had a mentality of being cutthroat in the business world his whole life. But this is a whole different ballgame. This is even much more, like, divisive a time than it was during 2016 and 2020. Like, shit has really escalated, and even someone who, say, can still pass the cognizance test in their 80s, what is the next year going to fucking show? Because we have, again, some surmising this all up, we have wars out in the East that we're helping support. We have a very desperate economic situation here. We have a moral degradation between a lot of citizenships and what our values are, or even what our judgments are on other people. And what is it like on the other side of the spectrum? Like, we can't even say Biden's a factor anymore. Like, going back with the theme of House the Dragon, like the thought that Kamala Harris would be president, which some people would all be all for. Yet we forget, and this is ironic coming from the BLM crowd and the anti-prison demographic. She used to be a cop.
Yeah, she hid a lot of evidence too, and she prosecuted a lot of people for like marijuana and put them in like jail for like hard time and shit.
Yeah, and
It's very crazy.
And then you look at some of previous like prominent female figures in either like competing for the presidency or competing in bigger spots. Nancy Pelosi, fucking what is it? Hillary Clinton? Like,
You know who I want to be president? Is fucking Tulsi Gabbard.
I heard a few podcasts with her. She sounds like a very based lady. I didn't know much about her till I looked her up, and when she said about like what happened with especially after the what was it, the Maui wildfires, and how that whole situation was handled, because she's Native Hawaiian, like it I felt like I was just hearing a citizen speak, someone who was actually on our level.
Yeah, she's not like, she doesn't seem like she's on a power trip, and she's, you know, very like country oriented and everything, very down to earth, very intelligent, and she's not fucking 70 years old, and I think she's probably 30s, 40s, and she served her country as well. She did multiple tours, I believe, as an army medic.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're right.
That's some noble shit, you know?
Yeah, there's our, like, Rhaenyra right there. I would say Daenerys, but, like, we all know how that ended. But, nah, like, so this woman has been in the army for 2 tours of a war that, like, even George W. Bush mistakenly is like, yeah, we didn't need to do that. It's like, and not only that, like, you hear this woman and, like, you hear someone who is grounded, down to earth, who has been through the political meat grinder before, and yet sounds like, you know, she sounds like she still is someone you could say hi to on the streets. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, another guy I like is Dan Crenshaw. I like him. He was also a veteran, and I like a lot of his policies and the stuff that he's done. As I believe he's a senator, and I'm not even like, they're both Republicans, Tulsi and Crenshaw, I believe, but I'm not even opposed to a Democrat. I just like a lot of the Democrats that they're proposing. I just don't like. Like, I fuck Gavin Newsom. That guy's fucking horrible. Kamala Harris, fucking horrible. Joe Biden, horrible. Andrew Cuomo, horrible. Kathy Hochul, fucking horrible. Like, I don't know. I just, in terms of like people that have, you know, elevated to a higher level that could potentially be, you know, presidential candidates, a lot of the Democrats just seem to be really shitty people, and a lot of the Republicans are too, don't get me wrong. But, I think that there's so much extremes on both sides that I think even for somebody to say they're a Republican and run for office, like that doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna, have an extreme Republican agenda or an extreme Democratic agenda. You know what I mean?
But it goes
like,
back.
I think if anything, we should have somebody that's more like moderate, middle ground.
But it goes back to the old thing, like, just because we elect these guys, yeah, on paper, on a literal piece of paper that we supposedly run our nation on, if we vote them, we're actively making the right choice. We're making a choice to have them there, but at the same time, do we? Like, I gotta go back to the example, like, two people of geriatric age, one being clearly just like in a clear state of mental decline, while the other doesn't answer any real actual questions regarding what the policies are going to be. Like, I don't know about you, but if I'm going to vote for someone, I would absolutely love to hear what their stances are on things before, like a try and buy, like a free trial, like almost like hearing what the benefits are before making the purchase, i.e., voting them in. And all you're gonna say is what we already know, that this person did this and that. This guy is clearly like out of his rocker. How about answering some fucking questions about like, if like, what are your policies on this and that, or God forbid, if they put him in prison, would he be able to run the nation? And if he was elected?
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting thing. And I think too is like it's very hard because even if you have ideas and different things that you want to do or you're running on particular things, nothing in this world I think could even remotely equate to the job of president. Like I don't think there's much they could really train you for that. And I feel like a lot of them come in and, want to make this change, that change. But then, you have to deal with the senators, the Senate, the House. You have to deal with corporations. You have to deal with foreign countries. You have to deal with all these different things. And I think in a lot of ways, they aren't able to really make some of the changes that they want to make. You know what I mean?
What a bleak and dire outlook. Damn it, Ed, I had you on here to uplift my spirits, and look what you've done.
I very much believe in the tenure garden philosophy. And I love talking about politics. I went to school, I have a political science degree and everything. And I like to understand the fuckery that is afoot. But I also don't like to immerse myself in it a lot. And I very much just believe in tending my garden. I take care of my friends, my family, pay my bills, try to maintain my health, try to learn new skills, try to better myself, and just grow as a person. And, maybe someday if I, have a bunch of money and whatnot, I can, try to make a real difference in some things. But I very much just, try to mitigate stress and just grow as a person and, do good shit. I believe in karma and I try to be a good fucking dude. And that really helps with these times that we're in, because if you are on Twitter all day kind of obsessing over politics, it looks bleak, and it's fucking horrible. It's a horrible mindset to just be in all the time, and I think that's a lot of people, and I think it's real unfortunate,
Well, I guess you kind of redeemed yourself with that response. I give you 2 out of 5 stars.
My DoorDash review is better than that.
Okay, you know what? Fuck you. I give you negative 2 stars. If you're gonna be a smartass and haggle for stars, Ed, you know what? Just because you pissed me off, I'm gonna upgrade it to negative 3 stars. Go fuck yourself. And with that being said, too, when it comes to the modern day socio-economic, what I will call the media industrial complex, because we mainly said a lot more about media than military, which is just as probably bad, if not worse, especially in the social media zeitgeist we see ourselves in nowadays. And when it comes to our views on how it not just affects small towns, big cities, or even across continents and countries, flat out, folks, we got nothing. Ed, thank you for hopping on, which I'm probably one of the last few episodes we're going to be doing on this cast for quite some time. You've always been a good friend. You are a very smart individual, and one of the reasons I have you on here is because you have a unique view of the world, especially between the many degrees and many life experiences you have. And I appreciate you for that, even though you're a fucking asshole.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, man. Fucking, I always enjoy this conversation, man.
The only other person to step onto this podcast 4 times. Now, you pretty much have all your social medias deleted, so should I even bother with that?
Yeah, I'm really not involved in social media like at all.
Say less, brother. But if you would like to see what Life on Saturn Productions provides in terms of content, please follow Life on Saturn Comics on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you would also like to see what I personally provide in terms of content, please follow me at Catalyst Jost. That is CATALY 5TJ05T on Instagram. And with that being said, folks, please keep your vibes dope, keep your zen flowing, and as always, peace.